And you mentioned international law and the Security Council. I do want to hear what you had to say. I mean, you obviously felt it was important to address the Security Council. You're a legal scholar, international human rights lawyer. We all know, people keep speaking about this post-Cold War order being crumbled now and being destroyed. This order kind of always was built and served the powerful, but it was used by people like you in different ways. But can you speak to like what this architecture means, what the UN means, what the Security Council means, what international law means anymore in a moment when the most powerful countries in the world are backing and justifying genocide?
So I'm going to just start from the moment of why I address the Security Council, despite all my cynicism and analysis of international law as a site of colonial oppression and so on and so forth. So I will say this, that as a legal scholar and an advocate, I understand very well that the Security Council is the most significant body in terms of this international architecture that we have. The Security Council is the sole source of enforcement authority enshrined under Chapter 7 of the UN Charter, which affords to the Security Council, comprised of 5 permanent member states and its 10 rotating members, the authority to declare peace, to declare when there's been a breach of that requires, that justifies self-defense, that affords to them the authority to impose sanctions, embargo, communicate on communication, diplomacy, trade, and affords to them most significantly the right to mobilize collective force. Right? This is the only, so when you think about international law, that it's only words, the reason people say that is because law needs to be enforced. And in most domestic situations, we understand that if in the United States, let's say, for example, if the legislature, the Congress makes the law, the judiciary interprets the law, and then the executive branch enforces the law through its monopoly on state violence, right? And so that's what law enforcement is and the rest of it. And that doesn't exist. We have a legislative body in the international system. It is the UN General Assembly. We have a judicial system, a judiciary in the international system comprised of many, many courts, but most notably the International Court of Justice, which is the primary organ of the UN, as well as the International Criminal Court, which has been created by treaty, as well as many regional courts and so on and so forth, and ad hoc tribunals as well. But we do not have enforcement authority, right? NATO is not a global police. There is no global police. The closest thing that we have to that enforcement authority is the Security Council, as enshrined in Chapter 7. Theoretically, it's the most significant, and addressing it is quite a big deal. And I wanted the opportunity. I knew that I would be the first, Palestinian-American woman to be making the case for genocide, and to do it with an emphasis on the intensity of attack on Palestinian women and girls in particular, that targets our reproductive capacity, systematically, so that the way that Palestinian women have been attacked and have not been able to conceive, not been able to carry to full gestation, have not been able to deliver, have not been able to have their babies survive, right, is systematic as part of an effort to obliterate the possibility of a Palestinian future, which is genocide. It dissatisfies 3 of the 6 specific acts in the Genocide Convention. And for Palestinians, this is emblematic of the ongoing Nakba. And to make that case and to insist this is not just like the tragic outcome of a really gory war, but that this was the intent all along. And what was really disappointing, was, and then obviously I took the opportunity to take aim at the Trump-Netanyahu plan, which we can talk about as well. But what's really disappointing is that what I found in the Security Council, that they also don't see sources of power. Everybody after that, we sat there for 3 hours listening to the statements, with the exception of the United States, right, whose deputy permanent representative amended her comments to come at me and say that any, genocide, my accusation of genocide is anti-Semitic and that I've disparaged their wonderful peace plan, right? With the exception of her, everybody just read their prepared statements, and all their statements repeated, we need actions, not words, which is the most ironic thing to say in the Security Council, which is the source of action. And so it was emblematic of, wow, we're it. We're it. They are not going to do it for us. And so, here we are.
I mean, I actually wanted to read, this is what the response by Ambassador Dorothy Shea, the Deputy U.S. Representative to the UN, she said yesterday in response to you, I must address allegations of genocide made in this debate. These accusations are categorically false and fuel anti-Semitic hatred and violence around the world. America fully supports Israel's right to defend itself. And then it goes on and on. The loss of civilian life in Gaza is tragic, but the responsibility for this conflict rests with Hamas, which could have stopped the fighting long ago by freeing the hostages and agreeing to the ceasefire terms accepted by Israel. I do want to ask you about these latest ceasefire terms, and what you think.
Sharif?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. For some reason it cut out. I don't know what happened.
Oh, okay. Yes. Well, I remember actually in October of 2023, just a couple of weeks into the war, we were at a lunch with a few friends, and you were explaining to some people why this is genocide. And this was just a couple of weeks into it beginning, why this meets the legal definition of genocide. Many Palestinians were saying this at the time. The rest of the world has very slowly caught up. And we saw groups like Amnesty International, Israeli groups like B'Tselem, the UN, finally
Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders, Association of Legal Scholars, and it's almost coming to be generally accepted that this is genocide, and yet it's still being allowed to happen. We're seeing now, and I don't know if that's linked, but we're seeing now, yes, some sort of push for a ceasefire.